Hey everyone, Libby here, back with another video. Welcome back to my channel if you're old to my channel, and hello if you're new. I'm Livy, Crescent Dreams Tarot, and wow, it's actually been a little while for me since I filmed. You guys wouldn't have known that, but yeah, it's been a little while. Anyways, not important. Also my nails, also not important. I'll fix them. I'll fix them. Not important because today is a VR to Jonathan Dailey called Last 10 Decks. Okay. Let's be honest here. This tag it's actually kind of old. It is an old tag. But the reason why I decided to do this tag is because, okay, you guys might not know this, but I kind of had an influx of decks come in. It wasn't necessarily intentional. It's kind of like the stars were aligning to get a lot of decks at once, so it just happened to be that way. Also, I'm going to apologize. My voice is a little froggy right now. I don't know what's going on. The only thing I can say is it's probably a result of the fact that I work in, U.S. elementary schools, and they are ridden with illness and sicky little kids. So I'm assuming it's from that. Anyways, I hope you guys can hear me. We're going to get into it. I have 10 decks I want to talk about that came in to my collection. I would say 2 of these you guys, or 3 of these actually, you guys will be aware of. Like, you probably have seen them on my channel. I mentioned them, or I did a video in which they were featured. But the other ones actually will be a surprise to all you. So let's get into it. Okay, first oldest out of these 10 is this one. This is the Threadbound Oracle. This is by Cedar McLeod, also known as Numinous Spirit Press. They are, so I backed this on Kickstarter, where it came also with the book. There's like 2 books so far in the series that goes with this deck. These are the backs. These are the fronts. This deck is pretty cool. It, I don't know if you guys can see, I don't know what to call this cardstock. It's very papery, so I guess it's like art paper, but look, when you look at it, it's like got that waffle texture, but it's obviously not actually, I can feel it and tell you this is not linen. It's very papery. And this deck, as you can see, is made with watercolors. So far, I have to say, okay, I'm going to be honest here. I was working with this deck in September, and I'll probably talk about this too in my September musings video. But despite how beautiful the artwork is, and like the, well, yeah, basically, despite how beautiful the artwork is and the diversity in the deck, I have to say, the times that I use this deck, there were some readings that actually hit for me, but I found myself not able to use this oracle to do like, how do I explain this? Okay, so usually these days when I've been doing an oracle reading, I'll lay out like 3 oracle cards to do a quick, like, what energy do I need to embody for today, okay? When I was doing this with this deck, I found that because this deck has both the titles and 3 keywords on each of the cards, for an oracle deck, for some reason, this started to feel like a mouthful for me. I don't know why. So I ended up switching partway through the month to reading with a different oracle. But again, I'll talk about that more in my September musings video. But this is just to say that this deck is beautiful, but I kind of need a rework. If I want to retry to use this, maybe in like a more summery or springtime of the year, because this is the vibe it's giving me, I need to think about I guess I just need to think about like how I want to use it, because I don't think using it in the way that I was working for me. So I can already say that. But yes, this is the Threadbound Oracle, and this was the oldest of the 10 decks that I have recently purchased or got. Number 2 on this list is not going to surprise literally anyone. Again, if you've been on my channel, this is the Thistle Oracle. This is from Three Trees Tarot, which is the amazing Stephanie Burrows and Adam Ohlers. This Oracle, I have plans for this. I intend to use this actually in November, so that's going to come up. So for now, I have not actually worked with this deck, but as usual, Three Trees Tarot just kills it. It's so beautiful. Like, look at the backs of these decks. Cardstock is still beautiful. Still the same, like Generation Press, the people they use to do their cards, has just amazing cardstock. It is, I noticed that because it's an oracle, I think these are slightly more, they feel like thinner and more bendy to me. And then they look like this on the side. And I have to say, the keywords in, besides this the day card for this one, the keywords in this deck feel like they're going to be perfect. And it's going to be the exact energy I need in November. I just like the homey vibes. I don't know. There's something about November. As I've become an adult, I've really enjoyed November every year now. I don't know why. But this deck is beautiful. The animals in here are beautifully depicted as usual. There's also even dragons as a nod to Smoke, Ash, and Ember's deck. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm excited when I can use this. I could, you know, you can use decks whenever the hell you want. I just have a system right now that I like, where I'm only picking a certain amount of oracles and tarot every month. So I'm kind of sticking with that for now because I like how it's been going for me. But Thistle Down is so beautiful. I'm very excited about this one. If you're in the UK especially, because, you know, shipping right now is cray-cray, definitely, right? Put this one on your watch, especially if you like animal oracles. Again, I realize that this will not work for everybody. Not everybody likes animal decks or animal even oracle decks. But if you do, I would say take a chance on this one because it's just stunning. And yes, I'm so excited for when I can use this. Okay, next up, again, this is another deck that you guys would have seen already on my channel. This is the Lillifer Tarot Gold Edition. Gold Edition, okay? I think I accidentally in my video called it the second edition, but no, this is the Gold Edition. I think it's just, I think I was confused because this is just technically a second printing, so that's why it's called the Gold Edition. As it says here, it is a unique deck of 80 cards honoring the esoteric roots of tarot with hand-painted watercolors. This is by, there she is, Marion Costentin, also known as Little Darkness. This deck, oh, see, even the inside of the box. This deck is so funky and cool and just, I'm loving this. These are the backs. And for me, I like gold, okay? And I think this deck has the right amount. So the back, as you can see, there's the full foiling. There you go. Shines in the sun. And then it also has it on the edges here. This deck is beautiful. You guys know me. I've talked about this before. I don't like, I don't like excessive, like, nudity in my decks, but for some reason, I've been able to jive with this deck. And I think the reason is because I know these aren't like actual people. As you can see, they're humanoid, but they're not like actually people. They're like little demons. And for that reason, I don't know. I guess I'm not like as bothered. And also just because every proportion on them is just vastly different from the other. So for some reason, I can jive with this. And I really just like the colors. I really like the choices made. This cardstock for the gold edition, by the way, is like fantastic. It just feels like nice. And it's super thin. So if you were like if you're a riffle shuffler, you could probably do that with this deck like easily. I don't foresee there being a problem. And yeah, this is the only figure that's like actually you can tell they're like a human, which I find really interesting. Don't know if anyone else has caught that, but yeah, really beautiful deck. If you've been eyeing this one too, by the way, so the big thing besides the gold, the big thing with this deck, except if it's, yeah, here we go, like this. Big thing with this deck is that originally the first edition, or not, blah, 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 the first printing, okay, first printing of this deck did not have these numbers on the bottom that told you what the card was. So when you were reading it, I don't even know if it actually said the 10 in the artwork. I'm not 100%, but if it looked just like this and people were very confused, that's why she added the number. So yeah, that is the Lillifer Tarot. It's a good one, and I'm very excited to start using this actually in October. Next up on this list might actually surprise quite a bit of you. This is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. This is created by, I don't know if her name will show up on here. Oh, there we go. Alejandra Leon. So this is actually created close to home for me. And okay, I've talked about this deck before. let me backtrack. Way long ago when I first started my channel, I talked about wanting to choose between this deck and the Practical Magic Tarot. And I ended up going with the Practical Magic Tarot. And I will say for that time, it was the definite right choice. But despite trying to choose between two, I couldn't stop thinking about this deck. And so when I saw that it was, I don't know if it's like completely out of print now or if it's just like limited, it was out of stock, I kind of tried to jump at the chance to get this one. And so I did. So this deck, I will say, this is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. You can definitely tell from this deck that my hands are small because look at how hard it is for me to just like, trying to hold it is like the worst. But it has these cool like matte gold edges. It is kind of cumbersome because I have small hands because it's so thick and it is wider. So this is definitely more of an oracle sized tarot deck. But despite all that, yes, I kept thinking about, ooh, are all my cards in reverse? Interesting. I kept thinking about this deck. And I think it's because everyone always claims that this deck is very, it's like very Leo energy. And even the creator has said it's very Leo energy. And I kept thinking about this deck too, because if you guys don't know, I got a reading. The only professional reading I've gotten, the reader was using this deck. So I've seen the artwork. I had a reading with it. It kind of resonated with me. And I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to get this one. And I kind of am glad that I did because for some reason it does work for me. I just have an urge to like pull it out, look at the cards, flip through it. It's a really interesting one. This deck would not be for everybody, of course, because, well, one, not everybody likes collage decks, and two, the size is very cumbersome. I wish it was not as long. Oh, excuse me. I wish it was not as long as it is. Like, and when I say long, I just mean like, I guess thick. I mean thick. And then all of the cards, not all the cards in this deck, I will admit 100% resonate with me. Yeah, I would say that. I did do, so fun fact too, I actually did do a video where I gave my initial thoughts on this deck. If you want to see me talk about my initial thoughts, especially being a Leo, on how I feel about this deck, let me know in the comments because I will post that then. Otherwise, I've been kind of debating if I actually do. But yeah, this is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. This deck is not new in any way, shape, or form to the world. I just was late to the party as usual. So now I have it. I am pleased. I just wish it was a little smaller in size, and that's it. Okay, after I got the Lioness Oracle Tarot, I had the very amazing chance to get a hold of this deck. This is not a new deck. In fact, this deck is actually out of print now. But this is the Stellas Tarot. As you can see, it's an AGM deck. I don't know what it is about this deck. I've had this deck on my radar for a while. But this deck, the Stellas Tarot, is a little hard to... How do I explain this? This deck is a little hard to get, obviously, because it's out of print. It doesn't go... When I see this deck, it doesn't go for, like, crazy out of print astronomical prices. But it kind of still is more expensive than I personally would want to pay. But I saw somebody on Mercari who had this deck. They were trying to sell it. And I just I did this thing. You can do this if you ever shop on Mercari and you live in the US, because I don't know if Mercari is anywhere else. If you shop on Mercari, you can like heart an item. And sometimes if you have it hearted for a while and that seller's really trying to get it sold, they will try to make you offers. Now, for a while, they were trying to give me offers, but it was still over the hundreds. And I'm sorry, I will not pay like that much for a deck. Just me personally. These are the backs, by the way. But they finally made me an offer for this deck that was really, really good, I would say, for being out of print. And also the fact that it's about indie prices, but I was willing to pay that. And so I finally got my copy of this deck. I am so happy, so excited. The cardstock is nice. It's interesting because the edges feel rougher, like the old paper, but then it's very bendy, as you can see. And I'm sorry for showing an out of print deck for this tag. But this is one that has been on my radar because the art in this deck, there's something about this art that always reminded me of Remedios Varo, who's one of my favorite surrealist artists. For some reason, this was giving me her vibes. The thing to know about this deck is that it's kind of a weird one. Okay. This deck is, to my understanding, this deck is very thothy because, see, as you can see, it has like princess and prince and, it does that kind of thing that thoth style does. But at the same time, it doesn't depict the minors and other things in a thoth way. In fact, they're more RWS. And even the guidebook that's in there has more RWS like meanings to them. But then some of the cards also look like Tarot de Marseille. So I think this deck, just like the Zerner Farber, kind of has like identity confusion. It doesn't know what system it kind of wants to follow. So it's kind of doing its own thing. It's like somewhere if like, I would say it's closest to if Thoth and RWS had a baby, you would kind of get this deck. But the artwork in it is so beautiful. This deck has been out of print because I think the creators, if you can still get it, I'm pretty sure you can only get it in Japan or something like that. But this version of the deck is no more. And I'm just so glad I have it though, because again, I really do like the art. It's right up my alley. Something about it just really resonated with me and I'm excited. I think I want to use this deck in December, so you guys might see it more then, but yeah, that was the Stellas Tarot. Okay, speaking of out of print, this is also another deck that I got from Mercari. As you can see, it's kind of beat up, the box, and I really don't give a shit. because this deck is, yeah, out of print. But interestingly enough, I never knew this. This is a old running press tarot. It just says Tarot the Complete Kit. I don't know if it has like an official name. But this deck, funny thing about this deck, even though it's like out of print now, you can actually get this deck for pretty good prices. This on Mercari I only got for like, I don't know, with shipping and everything, it was maybe like 20 bucks at most. This deck used to be everywhere. Even though I didn't used to read tarot when I was a kid, I used to see this deck in like stores and book sales. They would usually just have it on the side with like bookmarks and shit. You could find this everywhere at one point. And if you don't have this deck or haven't seen it, it comes with like this big pamphlet that's like I love how they call it a fortune telling mat. It tells you what's at hand, past influences, ponder this, what to do, and then how to conduct a reading. So it's really interesting, but this is all that comes with. Then it comes with this little guidebook, except the guidebook is kind of silly because it has like, I have to say, this guidebook is kind of useless because it gives like really weird, how to explain this? It gives really weird descriptions for these cards that I don't feel is accurate to them. So you could kind of just like, I don't know, toss this on the side. It's not really important with this deck, to be honest. And then these are now I don't know if, sorry, these are the backs. What I was going to say is, I don't know if the person who got this deck from me or not, like, I have a feeling they laminated their deck because I don't think this is the original texture of the deck. See how it looks like that? If someone who has this deck wants to tell me, please do. I don't think this is the cardstock of this deck. I have no clue. But it feels really like, it feels like someone laminated the cards. And this is used, so they very much could have been. Because if this otherwise is, if this otherwise is the cardstock, that's kind of awful. But again, this was like ye olden days, like late 90s, early 2000s is when I saw this deck a lot out in the wild. But I have to say, despite like the weird ass guidebook, I do like a lot of the depictions on the cards. This is why I was always kind of interested in this deck, but I never decided to buy it until now. I like that it's more minimalist, but it kind of does get to the heart of what each card is about. In my opinion, it's just like, it's just that guidebook that's so weird. And the sun, I don't know what's going on with the sun, but I kind of enjoy it. It's very silly. This would have been like, I feel like this deck would have been a good like first kids deck, to be honest, because it's kind of goofy. It gives me those vibes. But yeah, I just hope this cardstock is not actually like this weird laminated mess. I feel like whoever owned this deck before me maybe did that because it's not the greatest texture. But I'm kind of glad I have this one now. It's a little square, as you can see. It's very easy for my little hands to hold. And it's just funky. And so I decided to finally take a chance on this while you can still get it kind of at like cheapy prices. And yeah, so that was Tarot the Complete Kit. I don't know if it had another name, but that's what I see it as all the time. Okay, next deck. This is also not new. None of these, as you can tell, most of these decks are not like newish to the world. But anyways, this is the Forger's Daughter Tarot. This is referred to as the Afterlight edition. It comes in this box, magnetic closure. It also came with a big ass guidebook. I'm just too lazy to get it right now, but the guidebook is beautiful. The Forger's Daughter Tarot. I've had this deck on my radar, and I kept kind of going back and forth, back and forth. Do I want this deck? Do I not want this deck? Do I want this deck? Do I not want this deck? And I finally decided to get it because there was an Etsy sale from the creator where this deck was pretty much, I think it was like $20 off of what it normally is. I think roughly. So I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, this is the time. It has these very gold, very shiny gold edges. These are the backs. This deck is interesting. I don't know how I 100% feel about this cardstock. It is a linen, as you can see, but it's a glossy linen, which kind of threw me off. I think I personally prefer more matte, or more like normal feeling than this gloss. You guys know I have like weird opinions about glossy cardstock. Anyways, moving on from that. This deck is beautiful. What I was attracted to with this deck is like the use of the animals in it, I think made a lot of sense to me every time I saw people with this deck. And this hermit is just so beautiful. But I could tell that this deck would not be for everybody. As you can see, it's like in an Art Nouveau animal style. And not everybody, of course, likes animal decks, so in that case, it wouldn't work for everybody. It is also, like I said, normally very expensive. So, again, wouldn't be a deck for everybody. But I like it because, for me, this is what I feel like the Brady Tarot is for a lot of people. And what I mean by that is that this deck has a lot of, there's like things in this deck that very much reflect nature to me, like how it is, but it's done in a very soft way. Whereas Brady Tarot shows what nature is, but people, who was it, Lisa Pepez or someone, has called the Brady Tarot, kind of like the nature documentary, like, deck. It just shows like even some of the more brutal sides of nature. This deck has a little bit of that in some places, but it's done in a lot softer of a way. So it's done in a way I can tolerate. Also, this deck, I'm sorry, I think I flipped through. It's had a lot of bugs. So if you're someone who doesn't like bugs, you probably wouldn't want this deck either. See, this is so good. This deck also has like 5 extra cards that they put for the major arcana, and this is one of them. This is Ingenuity, and I love what it's depicting here, showing so good. So for me, I don't know. I just kept seeing this deck around. A couple people kept showing this deck off recently. And I was like, you know what? I think this will be time. I like what's being shown here. I don't know when I'm going to use this one, though. This kind of gives me in-between vibes, like in between either winter and spring or fall and winter. So maybe I'll use it in December, or not December, sorry. Use it in November, or use it maybe in February, one of those. I'm not sure. But yeah, I won't be using this immediately. But I do like this one. I'm just still kind of collecting some thoughts. But yes, this is the Forager's Daughter Tarot. Okay, we are actually, I forgot to mention, we're at deck number 7 now. And this one, once again, yes, I have a mini. This is specifically not, again, this deck is not new by any means, but this version of the deck is new. This is the Darkwood Tarot, the mini version from Llewellyn. This is by Sasha Graham and art by Abigail Larson. Let's talk about why I have this deck now. The mini, by the way, is $13.99 US. This deck, let's talk about the Darkwood Tarot. Darkwood Tarot is not new by any way, shape, or form. But I never had this deck because I am a petty bitch. I am petty, and I fucking hated the cardstock that the normal edition, like the big normal size, the edition of this deck comes in. Like I'm not even kidding here when I say this. I am physically repulsed by it. And the reason why I know what that deck texture is because there's a metaphysical bookstore very close kind of to me. And they do this cool thing where they have a lot of decks that you could try. So you could like, it's like when you go to Bath and Body Works and they have like the samples there. They do that with the decks, okay? They have like basically a try me with the decks so you can actually feel them, right? Feel the cardstock and everything. And I did. I did feel the Darkwood Tarot, like the actual regular Darkwood Tarot. I felt that cardstock and felt my soul literally leave my body. It is so fucking awful. I'm sorry. I know some people actually like it. I do not. It is so awful. It is so glossy. It's basically when I talk about like fingerprint texture, like leaving fingerprints because you touched a photo texture. That's basically what the regular Darkwood Tarot is, in my opinion. This cardstock, their mini cardstock Llewellyn's, is 5 million times better. It actually feels nice in the hand. It's smooth. It's pretty. Oops, sorry. This deck is, I just realized this deck is still in order. So I'll just keep going like this. It's smooth. It's pretty. Backs are like this. And because of that reason, I can finally own this deck without feeling like my soul is about to leave my body. I'm sorry. Again, I know that's very petty, but I don't give a shit. Because listen, guys, tarot is a tool. And these tools have to work for you. If they don't work for you, you don't have to accept them as they are, okay? Like if you hate a certain type of cardstock, you don't have to own that deck. I'm sorry, you don't. You could save your time, your money, your everything. And so for me, that's what I did. I waited, and then I noticed that they were doing this deck as a mini in their great mini cardstock, and I decided it was finally time to own this deck. Now, this deck is also another exception for me because the Major Arcana specifically has a lot of like, you're going to see it, but it has a lot of like nudity. Again, not usually my vibe, but I am obsessed with this artwork. I was just sad that this deck was never in, see what I mean? Like the moon and the sun and the star, they all just have... Yeah, not usually a fan of that. And this deck, I feel like could have been more diverse in like the color of the people and the bodies and stuff. But for the time, it is what it is. And I still like Abigail Larson's artwork. It is creepy. It's not my usual vibe. But at the same time, I've always been like interested in it. Because the artwork, people have talked about this before, but this artwork is very reminiscent of like those Jim Bluth movies that used to come out in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like The Swan Princess or Anastasia. I think that's still him, right? Am I saying the right person? Maybe it's not Jim Bluth. I don't remember who the hell. But you know what I'm talking about. It has that artwork feel, which is why I've always been interested in this deck. But yeah, I just wanted a version of this deck that wasn't like god awful to use. So I finally have that now. It is mini. And I know some people will not like this. They won't like the idea of a mini. So they'll go, well, I hate the gloss anyways, and I'll just buy that. But let me tell you, there is an advantage to mini decks, okay? And that advantage is that if you have a mini, you could do bigger spreads with minis. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I tend to do a lot of bigger spreads when I have to do really deep work. And when that happens, I actually need room on my goddamn table. So this actually gives me room. And by the way, also petty, I bought the book. I found someone online who was selling this separate, just so I can really dive in with this deck. Because I know this deck is also used more for shadowy work. I'm interested in that. I have these together. I'm so happy now. And yeah, I don't mind that it's mini. I like minis. So this is the Darkwood Tarot mini. And that is deck number 7. Oh, wait, no. 7? 8? Oh my God, I can't count to save my life. Let me look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, sorry, this is 8, not 7. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Okay, I have to show... I have to show decks 9 and 10 together because I got these decks together. And you're probably thinking, why? So the only reason why these two came together is because Inside Editions was having a sale where if you bought 2 decks together, it only cost $35. Yeah. That's the only reason why I have both of these. I'll start with this one, then talk about this one. This is the Dark Crystal Tarot. This is a deck that okay, listen, let me start by saying I love the Dark Crystal, okay? But the Dark Crystal is also one of those things that I didn't love until I became an adult. Because I watched the show version that came on Netflix. I watched the show, became obsessed with that. Then I watched the movie. And I like the movie, just not as much as the show. But I still love that too. And when I originally heard that this deck was coming out, I was so happy, so excited. Then I found out that it is, once again, one of their pip decks. I was not as happy. Almost the only reason why I think I decided, fuck it, and I'll just buy it and see how I feel myself about this deck is, again, because there was a sale where 2 decks were $35. So I jumped on it, basically, and decided to try this deck out anyways. So, the Dark Crystal Tarot is on their same Inside Editions. If you have an Inside Editions deck, you know what I'm talking about. I like the texture of this cardstock. Even though it feels a little chunky in my hand, like when I actually hold the deck. I like the texture of it because it's like this, it's smooth. I would say it's matte, but it's like a smooth matte. It's not rose petal finish, but it feels like it doesn't stick so much. But it feels adjacent to it, if that makes sense, because it just has this nice like feel to their cardstock. These are their backs. And these are the cards. So, the Dark Crystal. What I noticed that this deck does, straight off the bat, I can tell you, from watching the show and the movie, is that they have figures that are from both. But there's some in here that I don't immediately recognize. And I don't know if it's because it's been a while since I've watched the show. But some of these figures I don't recognize as much. So I also wonder if they're pulling from, what's it called? I think they have like some comics. Not comic, or like graphic novels is maybe the more correct term. They have some graphic novels too. So I do wonder if some of these characters are also from that. But I'm not 100% certain. I need to do a rewatch, to be honest. But this artwork, same artist, sorry, I had to pause. I was trying to see if it said it on the box, but it does. Yes, there we go. Tomás Hijo. People have explained away the idea that, oh, well, he's used to Spanish decks. So as you're going to see in the minors, this deck is a pip deck, which is still, I don't know, it's unfortunate to me. I don't know. Okay. Even if the tradition is, oh, well, it's based on Spanish tarot, so he does minors. I don't know. I think you could do more. I don't think you have to go pip. Just because you have a background in that doesn't mean you always have to stick to that. Okay. That's my 2 cents on that. I am not as happy by the minors. Okay. This is cool. And then you just get this shit, you know. Doesn't make me 100% happy. But the reason why I went with this deck anyways is because I do like, what's it called? I do like the colorings of the pips. I'm just not as much of a fan of the fact that they are pips. So I don't actually know, despite liking the Dark Crystal, if I will 100% love this deck. But for now, I'm going to try it, see how I like it, decide when to use this. I have a feeling I'm going to use this in December. But yeah, this is the Dark Crystal Tarot. Inside Editions. If you like the Dark Crystal, definitely consider this one. But this deck, I am very happy and pleasantly surprised with. This is the Disney Villains Tarot deck. Also Inside Editions, of course, because like I said, I got these on sale. This deck surprises me in how efficient and good it is. Okay. Now, I'm somebody who grew up in the generation where Disney movies were prevalent everywhere all the time as a child. So pretty much except for the exception of like maybe 2 cards in this deck, I pretty much recognize every single character that is depicted here, okay? I grew up in that generation. Same cardstock, right? These are the beautiful backs. I love the purple on this. And this deck, especially Kronk being the Fool, is just so perfect. This deck is so good. Every choice that they made for the characters that I see, I'm pretty much agree with. It is fantastic. The art is beautiful and funny and like, I don't know, it just fits the vibe so well. I am very much impressed. I've had this deck on my radar for a while actually. But the reason why I never bought it is because I was always just like, I like Disney. I grew up with Disney. Do I need a Disney deck though? Question mark. But then, oh, see, this one, the cards I don't recognize. I don't know what the hell this is from. Anyway, sorry, that was a side note. Autism brain, like what? Anyways, I always saw this and I was like, oh, I don't know. Even though I love Disney, I knew this deck was good. People talk about this being like a good deck, okay? But I just was always uncertain. Until I saw that sale, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is the time to try this deck out because look at him being the Knight of Wands. I do love that. This deck is just so... Okay, let's talk about it too, right? Because I talk about Inside Editions does a lot of minor, like pips in the minors, okay? This is the Ace of Wands, though. I know exactly what's going on in these, though. These are pips with feelings, I would say. And that's what I wish Inside Editions did more of. Because I can get the vibes, kind of, from this. Like, I can see where they're going with some of this. Like, for instance... Example, because some of you might be like, I don't see what they're talking. I don't know. 4 of Wands, okay? If you've watched the Disney movie of Aladdin, you know that Jafar was trying to marry Jasmine, right? This card is usually the wedding card. This is the celebration. He was trying to celebrate the fact that he thought he won. And you could even see there's color choices, right? Like the genie, Jasmine, Aladdin, right? He thought he was winning. He thought he was going to marry Jasmine. Didn't work out. So this is like almost the darker side of things, which is also why I kind of like this deck. It goes into kind of like the darker meanings. Like if you take things too far with a card, the direction you can go, which is kind of what all the villains do, to be honest, right? And so this deck is actually insanely good. If you are a fan of Disney at all, I think you would enjoy this. Honestly. Like this is, again, surprisingly good. And for that reason, I'm just impressed. I think this will be actually a very good one in my collection. Like, look at them, 3 of coins. I just love it. It actually works. I don't know how to explain. Like, these scenic things, I can see the card meanings. Like, for instance, right? This is the 7 of coin. No, 6, sorry. 6 of coins. Generosity. If you've seen this outfit, you know this is from Aristocats. What was his name, though? I don't remember. The butler's name? He was generous with the kittens, but then his generosity got to become so much that he thought he was entitled to everything. And then, you know, he kidnaps them and all that stuff. That's such an interesting and fascinating take to go with this card and to show him like this. I don't know. I'm just like really impressed. There's a lot that could be said. I would actually be very interested in doing a deep dive or like even a walkthrough of this and my thoughts on that. If you guys want that for the Disney Villains deck, please let me know because there's a lot that could be said. Like her being the Queen of Swords. Oh my God. It's just so fucking good. Now, this is one of the ones I don't recognize, but I'm pretty sure this is from The Rescuers Down Under. I never actually seen that one, but I know what that's from. But anyways, this deck is actually so good. So if you were thinking about this one, please do. And I know that this actually works for me, and I am so glad in many, many ways that it did. So, Disney Villains Tarot, actually a hit. And with that, I'm going to end out this video. Thank you so much if you've been watching all the way. You got to see all the decks that I went through. I was kind of a hot mess in the beginning because I feel like every time I come back from like not filming decks after a while, I'm kind of rusty at first. It's kind of weird. Why would I be? But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope to slow down on decks after this, but I thought because I had a lot coming in at once, this was the perfect tag to do that. So yeah, that's where I end this. I will see you all again next time. Bye.